How's it going, everyone? My name is Mahaji, and today we're just going to be covering Cooler's J2H cross-up. Now, as some of you may know, I already posted a video about this on Twitter about a week or so ago, but I felt that it needed a bit more of an explanation as to how it works. So without further ado, I'm just going to explain what proximity guard is and why it's important. So proximity guard exists in DBFZ when your character is next to an active attack, whether it's an assist, projectile, normal, or special. All of these things can trigger proximity guard. The only thing that is required is that the opponent is either holding back or just regular back, holding down back or regular back. Now, what this causes is something like this. As you can see, the opponent, lab coat is put into a sort of a blocking state, but she's not in block stun, right? This happens, and ultimately this shifts the hurt box of the character. When that happens, the back of their head basically extends and allows for Cooler's j2H to cross up. So for example, I'm going to show the cross up normally, and then I'm going to delve in a little bit more into how it hits. So this is the cross up. As you can see, I'm holding down back. I'm not getting hit overhead. Of course, this is not an overhead attack. So what is happening here is that when I'm getting hit with this, Cooler begins to do his j2H startup, right? And he lunges behind, and I'm going to see if I can capture the frame here. This might be a bit difficult, but you get the idea. She's put in proximity guard, and when that happens, it extends her hurt box in such a way that the j2H is going to hit her from behind. Now, for certain characters, this is important because Teen Gohan, for example, he is a very small character. As you can see, he gets hit right here, right? And it's because he's in proximity guard. Now, if I were to take that same sequence and I were to just block the first hit and then hold down, for example, that would not be the case. As you can see, he's not in proximity guard, so he's not going to get hit by it. This applies for a certain few characters, but this is just a fun fact, as the opponent should never really hold just down or down forward if you're able to stagger correctly with Cooler. If they're doing that, then you're doing something wrong. So for Android 21's case, she's not affected by this. She gets hit regardless, so feel free to do this against her as much as you like. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is when and how to use this. Now, Cooler's stagger strings are pretty commonly known to be very good. He has a 5L that is forward progressing and a 2L that is 0 on block. Both of his M buttons hit pretty far. As you can see, the 2M goes very, very far. It's only -9 as well. His 6H goes a pretty large distance, and his 5H as well. So all of these things in tandem, you have a character that can easily close space and distance, sort of get in, if you will. So once he has established pressure after 5L, which is what I usually recommend people to use for this, because he can go into Dragon Rush, he can go into his fake Dragon Rush with 226X. You can also go for sort of a cross up here. It spaces pretty much everything that he wants to do, and it also allows you to have a consistent spacing because it forces Cooler forward. You can also do it after 2L, which is really good because it's 0 on block, so you can kind of do something like this, or after an assist, which is really good to do, so something like this. Especially because certain assists are very smokescreen like Kefla's, for example, so you're not going to be able to actually see him coming like this, right? So these are just very common ones to use. If you get a jump in as well, excuse me, I'm bad at this, then that is one example that you could do it for. So if I block here, for example, cross up, right? So all of these things in conjunction, and you kind of want to structure your offense around the threat of j2H, as well as throwing his M buttons in, because this is a very large button to throw in, 5M as well, since it's very far, and it's not super unsafe, but it still is unsafe. So all of these things in conjunction, and you have a character that not only thrives off getting these little small hits, but a character that also has the potential to get a quite decent reward off of his cross up. As you can see, he's getting 4.6k off of, just a straight 226L into level 3. So imagine what he can do if he just gets something like this, right? 3.3 off of a cross up that's instantaneous is pretty good in this game. Not many characters actually have a cross up that's that decent, much less an instant cross up. So with that being in mind, these are just some ways that you can, sort of incorporate it into your offense. And if you're defending against Cooler and they seem to be doing this a lot and you don't know how to deal with it, there's a couple of answers. The main one is to either, reflect if you think they're going to stagger their strings, or, sort of 2H them for it. Since it is an air move, you can still get 2H'd for it. Some people might consider jump back as an option, but unfortunately for them, the j2H is actually plus if you block it in the air, so they can drag you back down. And if they do something like that, then I can just show you what happens here. So for example, something like this, jump back, and then they go right into another overhead. So you're kind of in a position of guess. You really have to guess against Cooler. So jump back is it's okay. You can even do something like this, where if you just jump back in JL, it's good, but it's not the greatest, just because Cooler doesn't have to commit to J2H, right? So you can also mistime it, especially if he staggers his strings correctly. So all of these things come into play for the cross up being very hard to deal with. As a read, of course, you can do something like 214H as lab code, or you can sort of like do something like this. But of course, Cooler can 2H after that. He's very safe after the cross up, which is very strong for this character to have as well. Now, with everything in consideration, it makes for the character to be very scary on block, especially against the characters that it works against. If it doesn't work against those the characters that I'm gonna have a list below where it showcases all the characters it works on, all the ones it doesn't work on. For the characters it doesn't work on, there are a few tricks that Cooler has against them specifically. I may or may not get into those later down in the future, but if you'd like, let me know. But for those characters, you're just gonna have to play the character, which I mean is by all means, he's still a good character outside of the cross up, since he still has this. I mean, you can even sort of throw in same side super dash, all of these good things. So the conversion is also very strong if you're closer to the corner as well. For example, I'm just going to bring 21 back in and show you what I mean. Well, 21, will you do something for me? All right, so this is closer to the corner. That's 4K off of a J2H that hits pretty close to the corner. You can extend with assist, you can do all of that good stuff. Ultimately, I do suggest that you optimize the routes with your team, because you sort of do want to get the most damage out of that as possible. Now, as far as game plan goes, a lot of people may have difficulty with getting their opponent back to the corner, but no worries about that, because when Cooler has a route and it leads to the corner, you can always spend half a bar to get them back into the corner, and you can always lead right back into the cross up if you'd like, right? And you can always kind of run up and just run your offense, as I say. But these things all in tandem make the character very serviceable. They make them very good to have if you know how to master him. As far as team building and things like that, I'm not going to get too much into those, because obviously people have their preferences. But that's basically it. I'm going to be covering more of Cooler's nonsense later down the line too, so if there's anything that you'd like to know about the character, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys soon. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, good weekend, and have a great week.